Hey guys, how's it going? This is BillyEatWorld, and today I want to go over some of the concerns that I have with the SRSS Bulldog, which is coming very soon in the Dragon's Teeth DLC for Battlefield 4. This rifle looks like it's going to be one of the best assault rifles in the game, even though it's not an assault rifle and its performance in-game is actually physically impossible. The Bulldog is a bullpup rifle, and like the Scar H, it fires the larger 7.62mm NATO round. This is a full-length 30 caliber round, unlike the intermediate 7.62 round fired by guns like the AK-47 or the SKS. This means that it's got a lot of kick, which means that firing in full auto is going to be ridiculously inaccurate. In previous videos, I've talked about how unrealistic the Scar H is in Battlefield 4 for this reason, which makes the Bulldog even less realistic considering it fires faster. What I'm trying to say actually makes a lot more sense once you realise that the Bulldog itself is not a weapon at all. The Bulldog 7.62 is a chassis conversion kit made by a company called Short Rifle Stock Systems, who make short rifle stocks. The actual gun itself that fits in the Bulldog chassis is an M14 battle rifle, which is otherwise known as the M1A. What you may not already realise is that there already is a modified M14 in Battlefield 4, which is the M39 EMR. The M39 in BF4 is a little different from the Bulldog though, because it's an accurized version of the M14 modified for a DMR role, but at the end of the day they're both the same platform and they both fire the same rounds. In fact, here is an example of an M14 modified with the same 22-inch barrel and a lot of the other modifications found on the M39 EMR, all housed in the Bulldog frame. So the question is, if the Bulldog is pretty much the same gun as the M39, then why does it fire in full auto, why is it less accurate, and why does it have less recoil? Well, the answer to the first question is an easy one. The M39 actually is able to fire in fully automatic mode, but like most M14s, it has a lock installed where the selector switch would normally be found. The reason the US military began locking these weapons to semi-automatic mode is because of the recoil generated by the 7.62 NATO round. Like I mentioned before, 30 caliber battle rifles are almost uncontrollable in fully auto, which is why in most modern military forces they were eventually replaced with 22 caliber assault rifles in general service. As for why it's less accurate, well, the reason for this is probably because of the length of the barrel. Considering the Bulldog is meant to be an assault rifle, then you can probably assume it's using a shorter barrel than the M39, which would make it less accurate. Even though it's a bullpup design, the Bulldog wouldn't necessarily be less accurate than the Scar H though, which it is according to the CTE stats. This is obviously to balance out its other bullpup characteristics in-game though, so this is kind of understandable. Either way, both of these weapons shouldn't be very accurate in fully automatic mode anyway, but we'll get to that later. So why does the Bulldog have less recoil than the M39? Well, that's a tricky question because recoil probably doesn't mean what you think it means. Recoil is actually the force generated by the round, so in the real world the 7.62 fired by both weapons generates the same recoil. Felt recoil is how much this force pushes you, which in the case of an M14 on fully auto is enough to physically push most people backwards, regardless of what stock they're using. Muzzle climb is another issue that's caused by this recoil, and this has a lot to do with how the recoil is distributed. Basically, without going into too much detail, muzzle climb is caused by the centerline of the barrel being above the level of the buttstock, and the reason the Bulldog has less muzzle climb is because the buttstock is more in line with the barrel. This doesn't mean that the Bulldog is controllable though, because the felt recoil is still considerably bad, and this combined with the bolt cycling back and forth causes the weapon to jump around all over the place. In the description I've linked a pretty interesting comparison of an M14 housed in a standard stock versus the same weapon housed in a similar bullpup stock called the Tactical Rogue. This shows you just how much kick the M14 has and how inaccurate they both are on fully automatic, even at short ranges. There's almost no reason in the real world that you'd ever want to use any variant of any 7.62 battle rifle on fully automatic. The average soldier wouldn't even be able to control a 5.56 assault rifle on fully auto, which is why the standard rifle of the US military, the M16A4, is limited to a 3-round burst fire only. In Battlefield 4, the problem is if the CTE stats carry over to the vanilla game, I can guarantee that this gun will become one of the highest DPS weapons in the game. Not only does it deal 34 max damage at 700 RPM, it's still controllable and accurate, which just isn't realistic. With all its limitations, the Scar H is already one of the best assault rifles in the game because of its ability to kill in 2 to 3 shots at close range, and the Bulldog is set to be even more deadly in close quarters. My main issue with these types of weapons being added to Battlefield 4 is not necessarily how they're going to be balanced or whatever, but that they won't fill the same role in-game as they do in the real world. There's plenty of PDWs, carbines and shotguns already in the game that are designed for CQB, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense that a 7.62 battle rifle could go toe-to-toe with them. DICE had a really good opportunity to introduce the Bulldog as a fast-firing CQB DMR, but instead they've chosen to put it in a category where it doesn't really fit. After all, BF4 isn't a tactical shooter, so I don't think DICE needs to be 100% accurate with their weapons, but ultimately the reason that we play games like this in the first place is because they mimic real-world combat. If DICE doesn't maintain some level of realism in Battlefield games, I think gamers will go elsewhere because there are plenty of other games that do arcade-style FPS combat just as well, or if not better. At the end of the day, the Bulldog might only be the tip of the spear here, but it's a problem that I've noticed growing ever since BF4 launched, and I hope that it'll be addressed before Bad Company 3 or Battlefield 5 rolls around. But anyway, what do you think about the SRSS Bulldog? Do you think that realism makes a huge difference in a game like Battlefield 4? And if you could change the Bulldog in any way, what would you change? Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and as always, if you like what you see, please remember to like, comment and subscribe. If you haven't already, please check out all my other Battlefield 4 videos. I've got them all linked in a playlist in the description below. And until next time, see you later and have a good one.